see you so stressed out. And are fine, but no one's laughing now. We can't avoid this now. Positive to positive, negative to ground. We can't avoid this now. Positive to positive, negative to ground. Physical contact is wavering on my ability to think clearly in all seriousness. Maybe this has gone too far. At least that's what I'd say if I could break away. Out of all this uncertainty, one thing's still clear to me. Living in low visibility, you know we can't talk around this for long. One thing that I'll never forget is the way that you looked me in the eyes when you told me that you didn't know what to do when I was writing poems. We can't avoid this now. Positive to positive, negative to ground. We can't avoid this now. Positive to positive, negative to ground. How you all doing out there on the internet? We're called The Warped. We're a band from Nashua, New Hampshire. That first song we played is called Get Bent. Should be out soon. This next one we're gonna play is a single we put out about 2 months ago. It's called Float. And it sounds like this. Spending way more time on thinking. You've been spending way more time on drinking. Where's the door for a happy ever after? Seems it's floated up, now it's stuck in the rafters. Now it's stuck in the rafters. Situations our lives are presented. Even when it's good, it's not like the problems will be fixed for you. See the problem with being with the past. pessimist is nothing's ever good enough, not even you. Hello. That one was called Float. So now we're gonna take a quick tuning break. After we released that one in October, we went on a small little tour. We went all over the place. It was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot. And we haven't done a ton of shows since. So it's cool to be on a stage again. It's been a little bit. This next one we're gonna do, it's another one we already have out. This one is the last song on an EP that we released back in, was it June now? Give me a second while I tune. But yeah, this one's called Hazel Eyes. We're on Instagram and Facebook and all those fun places where you can find us and listen to our music. Also on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere.
Music videos on YouTube for
We
Float
do.
and this next one.
We do. This one's called Hazel Eyes. Sometimes I'm so surprised. Caught me with all your schemes. It catches me every time. Well, touch me, hold me. Oh, I can't say for sure when I first heard and adored. Voice in this head of mine, always. Hazel, it's all I got. Hazel eyes, 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 it's all I got. We got another one for you. So once again, you can find that one on was the last song on the EP we put out in June. We've been a band for about a year now.
That's Martin on vocals. I'm Gabe, James, and Danny in the back.
That is true. You should hear this one pretty soon as well. This one is called Candy Cane E.T. You take some, you don't kill me. Take away some little thing. I feel like I've been used altogether. I scream, you wouldn't see me any better. Had to put all my thoughts. Brutally, I have succeeded in making everyone. Wake up now, take to work. Don't think on the issues. Look at her, think of her. Heard you wrong, do you them? Wake up now, straight to work. Don't think on the issues. Look at her, think of her. Heard you wrong, don't lose them. It's alright, I said. So I guess I must mean it. I've run out of profound thoughts. You think all used up and painful things to say. Really, I have concluded all my things are right. Truly, I have succeeded in making them. Wake up now, straight to work. Don't think on the issue. Look at her, think of her. Don't you look, don't look at. Wake up now, straight to work. Don't think on the issues. Look at her, think of her. Would you look, don't lose them. Thank you. How much time we got? One more? You want to do When She's Down? And have you two homies switch? We got one more. Unfortunately, though, as you might have noticed, my guitar was a little out of tune on that last one, and I apologize. But if you like what you hear through the detuned guitar, you'd probably like it even more when we drop that song. So stay tuned and pay attention, because we'll put it out. And we promise we'll make sure all the guitars are tuned on the recording. This next one we're going to play is another new one. It's called When She's Down. dawning sense of pride, weeps knowing she will someday die. Wait, my darling, rise for change, my darling, time to
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Between the Notes with Motif Mag, here at the Parlour in Providence, Rhode Island. My name is Jack Downey. I am the host this evening. Joining me tonight are New Hampshire-based band The Warped, who just put on a kick-ass performance for us all. If you want, you can check that out later. But for now, let us do the interview. So I know you guys introduced yourselves during the show, but would you mind saying your names again for the interview?
Of course. I'm Martin. I'm 19 years old, and my favorite color is green.
I'm Danny. I'm also 19, and my favorite color is purple.
I'm James, and I have an alcohol addiction. No, my favorite color is green. I'm Gabe. I'm 22, and my favorite color is also green. It's a good color, guys.
Green is a good color. That's actually my favorite, too. So
It's a generation.
purple's the outlier, but I do like green. And that's crazy that you guys are actually, except for Gabe, you guys are younger than me. I'm 21. So, interesting.
We are babies.
No, but that's pretty cool. So, you know, I was really enjoying your set. All the
Appreciate
songs sounded great, particularly the new ones. I really like those. We'll get to talking about those in a moment. But who would you say your influences are? Because I was hearing some post-hardcore, I was hearing some emo, I was hearing some jangle pop, like all across the indie rock board. So who would you say has influenced you the most?
Well, for me personally, there's a lot of bands I like. Actually probably my biggest influence is a band they're based out of Boston. They don't do a ton anymore, but they're called Colbus the Creature. Their drummer is currently the drummer in Future Teens, who's
Okay.
kind of like an indie pop type thing.
Yeah.
And they put out a record. It's on SoundCloud only. And I happened to see them live many years ago. I was like, I want to do that. I'm a big fan of Wunderbar out of Boston as well.
Mhm.
I really like the Pixies. Big fan of the Foo Fighters. There's a new band called the Driver Era that I like a lot. I'm a huge fan of The Cure and Joy Division. What about you guys? You guys have anything to add?
Yeah, our inspirations really come up from all over the place. It's hard to pick one favorite band. It's like 1 month we're playing one band, the next we're playing a whole other band. And on the record that we're making, we have all kinds of different sounds. So it's not, you're going to hear more than just the same sound over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And yeah, post-hardcore, it's funny that you mentioned that because me and my good pal James over here, we used to play in a post-hardcore band not too long ago. So
What was that? What was that band?
we were called Take One.
Oh, right. Okay. That's cool. Yeah. Post-hardcore is an underrated genre.
Agreed.
For sure. But yeah, shout out to The Cure and Joy Division because
yeah,
those
for
are
sure.
two of my favorite bands. Absolutely. So
Greatest.
I'm glad to hear you say that. And you mentioned earlier that you've only been a band for a year or so at this point. So how did that come about? How did you guys form?
So back in 2015, I was 12 years old and James was 10, and we started playing music together, and we were not very good at all, and we continued to be very not good for a very long time. And we were in a band called Hangman's Job, and after several years of being not very good, Gabe joined us in that endeavor, and we were not very good, but 3 people instead of 2 people. And we did that for a while, and then right around the time the pandemic hit, we were like, well, this is not really working. Like, we suck. So we kind of just scrapped everything. We're like, let's square run. We're going to start. At the time, we were without a drummer. So the idea was, let's make music that doesn't need a drummer. We'll make stuff. We'll use samples, drum machines. We'll make it work like that. So that's how we started recording and writing. And we started that around the summer of 2020. We did that for a while. And then we weren't planning on releasing anything for much longer, but we put a clip of a demo on TikTok. And that, I mean, it wasn't huge, but it was huge for us. Like, it had more plays than anything we'd ever done had gotten. And we were like, whoa, let's put this song out. So we put the song out, and ironically, that's the punkiest, most, like, least drum machine using song that we had. So we're like, oh, well, we do need to get a drummer. So we did, next up we had this EP, we put together. And mind you, all these were new songs. We had a whole set of songs that we wrote in the summer. None of them had been released yet. And we wrote that. The concept for that was me and James happened to be going to Texas because he's from Texas, and we were visiting his family. And in the Airbnb that we were staying, we just recorded like most of it. And that was kind of the concept for it. So that's how we recorded that. And then I just met him at a show, and we ended up jamming. He ended up coming up on stage and playing drums for a Nirvana cover. It was kind of like a spur-of-the-moment thing. I was like, yo, this kid could play drums. That's really cool. And I remember afterwards, I think I sent you a message on Instagram. I was like, yo, dude, you want to like play in my band? And you were like, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. And then, yeah, so we started doing stuff. So really, like, we've been a band for a little over a year, but we haven't, this lineup, like, didn't solidify until, like, June of this year. So we started recording our record over the summer, and then released a single off that. The record's not out yet. And then we did a small tour around from where we live in New Hampshire all the way out to Virginia. And now we're here on this podcast.
Well, that's quite a story, honestly. I wasn't expecting that, but I appreciate it, so thank you. I will agree it is very hard to find good drummers that really fit the band, because usually they're in like 3 other bands at the same time.
That's me.
That's the common joke, yeah.
As a drummer, I can confirm.
Yeah. No, I ended up teaching myself how to play drums in my garage, and just so I wouldn't have to go and look for people. So
I think that's kind of what happened with us too, actually.
But there were a few things that I wanted to follow up from that story there. One being the tour that you went on. So you said you went all the way down to Virginia. So how did you do that, being such a new lineup? How'd you...
Perseverance.
There you go.
Being very okay with playing to very empty halls and running on very little money, I think, is how we managed it.
We had enough to pay for gas. That was good. If you had enough to pay for gas, that was all we needed.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the goal, was really like, if we can get to the next spot, then we'll be fine. And we didn't make money, but we didn't lose money. And that's the goal at this point in time, is to be able to do it. And yeah, it was really we just emailed people, messaged people. He actually did. James, you want to share anything? Because you did a lot of the planning for it.
Yeah. It's not actually super exciting. I just use Facebook. Like, I found a lot of like show trade offers. I was like, oh, I can give you a show in New Hampshire if you let me play in Virginia. So, not very exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. It was quite an adventure. We just took a minivan at that. We loaded all our gear and all our luggage in it, and yeah, we just started driving. That's pretty much it.
And how many states did you guys play in?
We didn't play in a ton. How many states did we play in?
4.
It was only 4. It felt like a lot more than that, but it was only 4. But we played in New Hampshire, Connecticut, Delaware, and Virginia. And they were all really fun. We made some new connections, met a lot of cool people, and generally just had a really fun time. We got to have a band trip to the art museums in Washington, D.C., which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. That's a lot of bands, I think, just go from state to state to state, and they don't really take the time to really appreciate where they are. Which, granted, maybe they don't have the time to do that, but that's still pretty cool. But it's interesting that you made the jump all the way from Connecticut to Delaware, because I know a lot of bands that I talk to, and myself included, usually try to fill like state to state to state in order.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think sometimes complicates the process, because sometimes you don't find shows in those states in the time period that you selected. So,
and that was the exact problem we ran into.
This might be the way to do it. If you're a musician, maybe just don't play that state and go on to the next one. That's the lesson you should learn here.
I mean, yeah, we knew that. That's totally what we were thinking. Wasn't it all just because we couldn't find anybody else who wanted to host?
Take what you can get. That was pretty much it.
That was it was like, okay, well, we have friends here and we have friends here. We'll message these people. We'll get in this Facebook group, message these people, and we just ended up with what we got. Basically, what happened was we got a show in Virginia and then needed a way to get out to Virginia. So that's how we ended up looking for the shows. And we had the experience a week before that the band that I play drums in called Sauce on the Side, we did a full tour from New Hampshire to Utah, which is very far. And with that, we kind of had the experience of when you go from East Coast all the way almost to the West Coast, like that you learn a lot about the whole process. So going from then New Hampshire only to Virginia was like, oh, this is nothing. Like, wait, we only stay on this road for like 200 miles instead of like 500 miles? Oh, it's crazy.
That's certainly interesting. There's not a lot of local bands that go that far, so that's
It's
certainly
just stupidity, really.
But and also from your origin story, obviously we should address the elephant in the room, which is the new record that you guys have been recording. So what can you tell people about that record that you haven't said already?
It comes from a lot of different influences and a lot of different times. I wouldn't classify it as a breakup record because that's really cliche, but there are those themes in it. It's very... I grew up going to shows in Boston. I live right outside of Boston, and I went to a lot of those, like a lot of the indie bands that were coming up, like And the Kids, Walter, etc. Like a lot of the bands from that generation, the like 2012-ish, like indie rock scene. That was like, I worshipped that as a kid. I thought they were like on the same level as like Chili Peppers and all those bands. Like I was like, these are gods. So that's like a big thing, at least for me, from the writing, has always been like, that was the North Star of like the sounds that I would work on came from learning from how those bands did it. But honestly, I feel like we all have pretty unique things that we draw. You guys have anything to add? You guys are so shy.
It's going to be awesome.
Aw.
That's it. I was just gonna say
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. The new record is going to be awesome, so stick around for that. But I will agree with you that I would say indie bands from 2008 to 2014, that was like a small golden era of indie rock.
100%. And a lot of them are
crazy
from
good stuff.
our little pocket of the universe. Like a lot of those bands are from New England, and that's cool. A lot of I don't like the way I always describe it is like most people don't realize that it was a scene because it was only a scene for like 5 minutes before all those bands like became national acts. But like the Wonder Years and the Kids, all those bands, same, we'd play little shows around, and I got to see like 2 of them, and those 2 shows like made the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it happens, right? It's just like that
for
one
sure.
moment is like just completely changes the trajectory that you were originally going in.
100%.
So I was looking too at the beginning before the interview started at the drum kit here, and I saw you have Animal in the front, which is interesting because I was going to say you drum, you're crazy on the drums, man. You were overpowering everything from the audience in a good way, and I wanted to ask you about your crash cymbal there, which has a lot of ridges on it. Did you do that or did you buy it like that?
It's actually just, we were playing Frisbee with it, and we dropped it so many times that it just ended up looking like that. And we think it looks cool, so.
It does, and it sounds cool too, honestly. It's got that really rough sound to it, which not a lot of people utilize, you know? There's actually, I had a 2-piece band with my brother for a while during the pandemic called Sun Mask. It was like this shoegazy noise thing, but he beat the cymbal so hard with a stick, because it was this really cheap cymbal I ordered online, and he beat it so hard that it literally ended up being like concave. Like he almost indented it entirely, and it sounded awful, but it also sounded really great.
I've
So
done
yeah,
I've done
that's
that.
so I just wanted to indicate my appreciation for the craft here.
Exactly how many snare drums have you broken, Martin?
This year or of all time?
Both.
4 this year, 8 time.
No, impressive. Impressive.
Expensive.
Yes. Yeah. But so how? Because you were saying that you only played 2 shows in New England on your tour, but how often do you play in New England? Would you say?
How many shows have we played total? It's not a lot. We played our first. So, my best pal Danny here, he sings and plays bass in a band called Townsend out of Salem, and they're kind of like the like head honchos of that little scene in our area. They play pretty big shows. And when he joined the band, we just ended up being like, hey, we're going to open up for them now. So our first couple shows were, I think our first 2 shows were both, or well, actually we did 2 acoustic shows in New Jersey. Because another funny story, James actually is from and technically still lives in New Jersey. So, yeah, we played in Salem twice, and those were really fun shows. And then we played in Milford and Nashua. So we've only played in New England like a handful of times so far. We'll be doing a lot more than that when this record starts. We'll probably put out a single this coming month in December, and then we're hoping for February, like February-ish, March-ish for the album drop. And when that comes out, we'll be playing anywhere you can get us. Really, like if someone tells us like, hey, come play, we'll come play.
James, where do you not live?
It's a good question.
I live everywhere.
Good to know. But you heard it here, folks. Possibly first. You're going to get a new single from The Warped this month, and you're going to hear the album in 2 or 3 months after now. So stick around for that. Are you releasing the album independently or through anybody?
Independently, yes. We basically, you could call it DIY, but you could also just call it for lack of an alternative. We kind of do everything ourselves. We do all the recording, all the mixing, all the mastering, and really all of it comes down to us, which is why it takes us so very long, because we want it to sound good, and we only have so much to do it with.
No, I totally respect it, honestly.
Appreciate it.
So it's always cool when bands just say, hey, you know what? Let's just put it out, you know? Why try to take the time to fish around with labels? Just put it out, you know?
Mhm.
'Cause at the end of the day, sometimes that's the best method. Because
Yeah.
if people want it, like, it's probably wise not to deliberate and instead to just give the people what they want, you know?
Yeah, and I think seeing how it's our first full-length release, it would be maybe unwise to be trying to fish around for labels. That might be a little bit too big for our britches so far. We'll drive across the country for a show. That's fine, but maybe like talking to people might be a little bit too much for us.
Yeah, it's hard to talk to people.
Agreed.
But I have a few questions left before
Mhm.
this interview concludes. Where can people find your music? And what platforms should people follow you on social media?
So we got a very active Instagram, a fairly active Facebook, a not so active at all Twitter, and a fairly active YouTube, I'd say. And you can find us anywhere you listen to music. Like, we're on pretty much everything. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube. Is Amazon Music still a thing? I think if it's still a thing, we're on there. And yeah, we got music. Every song that we have out has a music video. So if you're into music videos, we do all that ourselves for the most part with some help from our friends back home. And those are all on our YouTube channel. We got some live performances on there as well. And our Instagram is probably the best way if you'd like to keep up actively with what we're doing. We post on there often, and yeah.
At the Warped Band.
Yes, at the Warped Band. That's the tag.
Cool. I think I already follow you guys, but you should too if you don't already.
We'd very much appreciate it.
And I guess my last question is, and I don't know if there's any sort of story associated with this, but considering what I've heard so far, there probably is. Where does the name The Warped come from? Because when I first saw that name assigned to today, I was like, oh, that sounds kind of like a 2000s metal band almost. Like, this is someone
Really?
playing Warped Tour.
Oh,
So
I see.
that was the vibe that I got. So I was honestly, when I came here and I heard your music, I was like, oh, that's, that kind of threw me for a loop. So where does the name have any sort of special meaning? Where does it come from?
So our old name was Hangman's Job, and that was taken from the movie The Crow. Because when I was 13 and James was 11, we were like, this movie's awesome. And in the movie, the guy's in a band called Hangman's Joke. And we were like, oh, let's just change it to Job. And we kept that for a while. But our sound was just kind of like garage rock. So we were like, everyone thinks we're a metal band. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because we actually were like, we need a band that's definitely not metal. And we were thinking about it. We were like, a lot of bands from that era have very like the Arctic Monkeys, the Warped, like that could like kind of like I created an association. The Strokes, the Warped, like I think that's kind of what we were going for. We narrowed it down to 2 names. I'm not going to give the other name in case we ever use it. I don't want you stealing it. But and we actually just ended up asking a bunch of our friends like, which of these do you like more? And I remember your dad, and I'll never forget it because I very much think it's really funny. He thought, why would you call it the Warped when you could call it the Warp? And I don't know why he thinks that. I just thought it was like, well, I feel like it's kind of hard to tell what someone's saying if they're like, oh yeah, I'm in the Warp. So, yeah, we ended up with the Warped, and then we drew up a logo that kind of looked. We were like, let's get like a '70s banner logo that looks like cool and old timey.
No, there was definitely more to that than I thought I would get. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a punk vibe to it too. So I wouldn't say it's entirely metal, and I'd say you guys do have a punk-esque sound in some of your
100%.
songs. So I would say it works.
It's all on you.
I would
Dan.
say it works. But how much time do I have left? We all set? All right, great. That's great because I'm out of questions actually. So you've been listening to Between the Notes with Motif Mag, listening and watching in this case. My name is Jack Downey. Here with me today have
Thank
been
you,
the
Jack.
Warped. Thank you for being here. You guys put on a great set. And if you want to see that set, as I mentioned earlier, you can watch this video on Facebook later. This interview will also be on Spotify at some point if you want to listen at your own leisure.
It is?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah. No, they get put up on Spotify. I think about a week after they're done. I'm sure you guys will probably get some kind of notification about it afterwards, but
Awesome.
if not, and I
That's cool.
find it first, I'll let you know. But good luck. Safe trip back to New Hampshire tonight.
Thank you.
If you liked what you saw and heard, not only follow The Warped, but also follow Motif Mag on Instagram and Facebook. Follow The Parlour, who have been gracious enough to lend us this space
It's a
on
really
Tuesdays.
cool space.
It is a very cool space. And so give them a follow. Stay tuned every Tuesday for a new episode of Between the Notes. And leave a comment about what you think about my new haircut. Because I looked way shaggier last week, and I feel much more confident about my appearance this week. So please...
I have no comparison, but I think it looks good.
Thank you. Please give some praise about that. So thank you. Have a good night, and stay around for next week.